Splendid choice, yes, indeed.
The bird who didn't want to fly south for the winter. Created and written by Taylor Brandon. Autumn is the season that marks summer's end and lets everyone know winter is around the bend. Everyone gets set for winter by doing their own thing. The bears and gophers find a place to sleep until spring. But the birds prepare the best way of all. They simply fly away at the end of fall. They tell each other by word of mouth, it's time to leave the woods and fly south. It's easy to relax in Florida, where it's hot. It's hard to live up north, where it's not. All the birds packed up and got set to fly. Everybody, except for one lazy guy. This guy's name was Marty McBird. He wouldn't listen to advice. Not a word. He didn't like others telling him what to do. He'd always stop them before they were through. He was tired of flying south every year. He said,
"The winter is nothing to fear. I think I'm going to give my wings a break. Making it until spring will be a piece of cake. The others think I'll change my mind. No, sir. This year, I'm not flying south for the winter."
Marty watched the other birds take to the sky. He said,
"Hope you have a rotten trip. Bye-bye."
The others had no choice but to leave him behind. He was stubborn, and he'd never change his mind.
"I thought they'd never leave," he said with a smile. "It'll be nice having the forest to myself for a while."
Although the temperature began to fall, Marty still thought he had made the right call. He chuckled.
"There is a bit of a chill in the air, but it's not that cold. It's nothing I can't bear. When it gets colder, snow will fall from the sky. I'll grab my scarf and goggles and give skiing a try. Or I'll find a frozen pond and tear up the ice."
He pictured it and said,
"Winter will be nice." "Yes,"
he went on,
"this is going to be fun. Why roast like a turkey under Florida's hot sun?"
The next day, the temperature continued to decline. Although worried, he still pretended all was fine. He said,
"There's no way it can get any colder."
He was wrong, and he found out before he got older. A winter storm hit, and the wind began to blow. The blizzard began dropping sleet and snow. The next day, the storm ended, and our pal managed to survive. But he was in a bad mood, for the temperature was -5! Trying to stay warm in a nest covered with sleet, Marty was now wearing red socks on his feet.
This is like living in a supermarket's frozen food section. But when it comes to north or south, I chose the right direction. If I was wrong, I still wouldn't take the others' advice. I'd rather become a popsicle or some other form of ice.
He said,
"Skating or skiing aren't the things to do. It's too cold for that. I'd wind up with the flu. And I'm starving. My belly is making funny sounds. I'm scared to weigh in. I must have lost 10 pounds. After that storm, my stomach is reeling. There isn't a word that tells how bad I'm feeling."
Looking at the trees, he hoped to find some food there. But the storm beat him to it, stripping the branches bare. He thought his chances would be better on the ground. But just like in the trees, there was no food to be found. He said,
I'll have to rough it until the spring thaw. If I'm still alive, I'll be the trimmest bird anyone saw. Even though this dieting thing is going to be a bummer, I'll look great in swim trunks if I can make it until summer.
Turning, Marty spotted a pond nearby.
I'm also thirsty,
he said with a sigh. Marty lifted off and took to the air. Within a few seconds, he was there. Landing on ice, he slid for 100 yards, give or take a few. He moaned.
Great! Besides freezing, I'm now black and blue.
Gazing at the frozen pond, he almost cried. He realized its water was trapped inside. He said,
How cruel. Going thirsty with all this water around. I'd rather die in the desert, where there's none to be found.
The wind hit, chilling him to his longest tail feather. He thought he might be wrong about the weather. Or, as he said,
I think it would be best to get out of this wind and up to my nest.
But he couldn't move. His wings were stiff with frostbite. Just as winter stole his food, it robbed his power of flight.
Now I'm grounded, as well as dying of thirst. This winter thing,
he moaned,
is the worst.
Staying put, Marty did his best to stay warm. The next day, he fought another winter storm. Time slowly passed. Each day was colder than before. He finally broke down. He couldn't take it anymore.
I can't lie to myself any longer,
Marty screamed.
I was wrong. The winter is worse than I dreamed. I should have listened to the others' advice, but I didn't. And now I'm paying the price. I'll probably end up in a block of ice with a sleety crust and have to spend eternity in a museum collecting dust.
But, he whispered,
if I get out of this bind, I'll listen to others before I make up my mind.
Suddenly, the sun grew brighter and Marty thawed out.
I made it until spring,
our pals said with a shout. Marty took to the sky as the others returned for spring. He told them he was wrong about this winter thing. Before making a decision, he learned to listen to advice. It's better to do than wind up trapped in a block of ice. The end. Click to subscribe. Visit back soon for our next adventure.